All right. I'm here with Wagner. He's in Amsterdam, but he's originally from Brazil. I'm in LA. And what is the topic of our conversation?
So nice. First, I would like to say that it's a big pleasure to talk to you because I'm your fan and I've watched many videos and yeah, I think it would be nice for we to talk about percussion, about a community around percussion, and how you developed your career around this topic also, because I know that you have a range of activities, which is not only percussion, but as I'm a drummer and percussionist, I think it would be nice to talk about it. And I think it would be nice to have this like informal conversation. And should I start asking something, or would you like to say something to
Yeah,
start?
well, I guess because we were just chatting before we started the recording, and you were saying how you're in Amsterdam at the university there, and you're focusing on community music making, right? Community building, and also not just that, but perhaps addressing the needs of at-risk populations or vulnerable populations, people that need more than just music, but music is going to be the way that we basically are offering help, right? Helping people do something outside of the musical experience. So yeah, I'm also very interested in that. So yeah, I welcome the conversation. It's a great conversation to have.
Yeah, very nice. And yeah, talking about this concept, what do you think is the what do you think is most important thing? I mean, like we can get an artistic value out of a percussion ensemble that we make, but we also have a social value that we can feel. And what do you think is the most important thing? The social part, or the artistic part, or maybe the educational part?
So yeah, I guess I look at all of those things as a constellation of elements, right? And just like a person, just like your life, your life is made up of work and play and creativity and sometimes just having to do things you have to do, you know, uh,
Hmm.
like traveling. We were talking about just having to, like going and getting on an airplane. I mean, doing all that stuff, just stuff you have to do. Um, and also meeting certain standards and expectations in your life, but also having time to be free and be creative and develop something, that's meaningful for you. And sometimes those things are the same thing, but sometimes they're different. So I think there's things that are that become more important at certain times, and that you can focus on something like artistic quality or maybe musical standards in service on the way to meeting a social goal, in service of a social goal. And the opposite is true. You can also work on maybe creating a sense of community that will then be in service to working together to create the artistic product. So I think they all work together. I think in terms of being a facilitator of community music, that's one of our jobs, is to notice the dynamics. In other words, notice what people might be going through in terms of their own mood, their own feelings, their own thoughts and emotions, and then help uh, moderate or guide them through a musical experience that is working for them. That's going to work for them, and that's the topic, right? That's the art. That's the art
Hmm.
form that we have to have. Is not just music, but noticing, first of all, who are these people? What do they want? What's their goal? And then how are they in the moment? How do they appear? So those are all things we can talk about. But I think
Hmm.
ultimately, if I had to pick one, I'm going to quote myself, I guess, from my book Together in Rhythm, which was I wrote this at the end, and I believe it, and that is that when people get together and play music, they're probably not going to remember, and this is in a casual way, I'm saying a casual, community, just people coming in who maybe are not professionals. They don't even think of themselves as musicians, but they're just having a casual musical experience. They're not going to remember rhythms that they played, or they may not know the names of the instruments, and they're not going to remember, a lot of data, particular things. But what they will remember is how they feel, is how they felt when it was over. And that, I think that's the most important thing.
Yeah, very interesting. So you're saying that the emotion is the main point to connect people during these workshops. Is something like this?
Well, I believe in fun.
Yeah.
So I believe in having fun no matter what I'm doing. And I think most people, not all, but most people also, I think, would want to have fun. They want to enjoy themselves. What fun looks like or feels like or is to different people is going to be different. But in general, people want to be seen. They want to have freedom. They want to maybe create. They want to express themselves, and they want to connect with other people. There's a time, where I think we can be by ourselves and have a really nice experience creating. Maybe it's in a practice room, or maybe it's outside, or who knows, wherever it is. But there's also something special that comes from, obviously we know this because we're having this conversation, from community music making. And there's dynamics, there's things that happen in a community that obviously that won't happen by yourself. And we are social creatures. I think it's really important for people to be together and to share. Obviously, I think the science bears that out as well. So the question then becomes, what can we do in a musical setting, to meet the social, emotional needs of our participants?
Yeah, nice. And what's your approach? For instance, you have like a script that you follow. I know you have many activities, a big vocabulary around this, but I mean, if you have just one day to give a workshop, how do you manage this time? Like the beginning, the middle part, the end, to bring this experience, to bring fun and some emotional connection among the participants.
Yeah. So okay. So that's a big question, right? And it's a general question, but let me. I'll try to start with the general, and then we'll get more specific. So my approach and my thinking, and again, I'm going to refer back to my book Together in Rhythm, because I laid this out in there. I look at three big things, three big, what I call like pillars of my philosophy, of my particular approach, which I want to say is informed by many, many other people. It's not like I created this out of nothing, right? So I've had many, many teachers. I've studied other people's book, read a lot of books, gone to other workshops, et cetera, et cetera. So, but what I feel, what's important to me, first of all, is inclusion. I just label it inclusion. So I want to make sure people are included. They feel included. And what is so? Well, I'll get into each one of these in a second. The second one is cooperation. I feel it's really important that people are working together and cooperating. And I don't just mean going along with what I'm suggesting or what I urge them to do. I mean them actually working together and working things out and cooperating. And the last big piece to me is what I just call appreciation. Taking time to express appreciation, to illustrate it, to show what does that look like, to actually maybe say words about appreciation, having a time for appreciation, not just running right up to the end of an experience or an event or a session and then saying, okay, bye,
Uh-huh.
but to,
But this appreciation would be they express in words. They have this moment to say something. Is
yeah,
like
it could be that. Yeah, often it is that. It could be that. It could be also just a silent sort of taking time, to acknowledge, like you could have an internal moment. I guess some people might call that like a prayer, like a prayer moment. It could be
Mhm.
like an internal thing, or it could be outwardly expressed. It could be the whole group together. It could be one person at a time. going around a circle, for example, saying some words. I mean, it depends on a lot of things. So that's another thing we should talk about is all of these things. What I would do with a group, it depends on the group. So we've got inclusion, cooperation, appreciation. Those are the big things. Those are the philosophical things. Those are the goals. How do we get there? I mean, first of all is when I'm designing a program or somebody asks me to come in and work with a group, the first question I would ask is who are these people? Tell me about the group. Not only about them demographically, what is their age, maybe gender, their situation, what is their situation, but what is their goal? How much time do we have? What is the space like? All of these things are important questions because I need to fit what I'm doing into I need to accommodate them, right? So I would choose different kinds of experiences based on maybe they're not only who they are, when we're doing this, what the goals are, but also what have they done already? Do they have any experience with music? If they don't have any experience with music, then I need to think about what I could do for them that would be fun and engaging and what would be appropriate for them. If they're musicians already or they have experience, then I can do other things. I can, because I want to manage their fun level, and I don't want them to get stressed out. I want to give them something appropriate, and so what do? We try things out. We come up with an idea. Okay, maybe I'll try this. And yet, like you mentioned earlier, yes, there's little warm-up activities. There's some game kind of things. Then there's maybe a teaching sort of thing that could be something more educational. I might introduce, a particular instrument or a particular rhythm or a particular song, for example. And that could become sort of the anchor, the focal point. And then around that, we learn, we play, we express. And then within that experience also, and this is a big piece of my approach, is that I always want to remain open to improvisation. And so often, even in shorter sessions, let's say I have a group of 5 or 6 people and we're doing a song, whatever song, and somebody changes the word. All right, they change the lyrics or they introduce something that's like an alternative version. I say, yeah, that's awesome. Let's do that. Let's try that. Because to me, that's an indication that they are engaged and they're making it their own. They're taking on ownership, which is something that I'm looking for. Are they doing, if you work with young children, for example, especially in some countries, I would say, unfortunately, sometimes young children are often conditioned to just do exactly what any adult tells them to do, regardless of what it is. Just do it, don't just do like you're told and don't question anything. And, and they're kind of conditioned that way. And I feel like that is unfortunate. But at the same time, in many cultures, that's not the case. But I would look, for example, for opportunities to amplify and validate any ideas that are coming from the participants. So that's another thing that I do, and I'm not alone in this, is to always be kind of scanning and looking for something new, something creative, and then maybe bring attention to that, and then just ask the question, okay, what can we do with that? How would you like to do it that way, or well, let's try it, and then who else has an idea, or what else can we do with this? And then get the participants working together and teaching each other. So I might say something like, hey, could you teach that thing that you were doing? I noticed you were doing something new there or something different. Can you show that to everybody? Or could you teach that to everybody? And then that's how I think we create the cooperation part, for example.
Cool. And you think for vulnerable groups, it works the same way? You think that they can have this sense of ownership when you ask some questions? Do you feel that they are open to it usually?
Well, in a way, yes. And I have worked with at-risk teens, and what's interesting is that even though, of course, a lot of people, a lot of children, and just people in general that have gone through a period where it's very difficult, it's hard, a hard life. Maybe they suffered some abuse or bullying or neglect or anger from parents or other people or siblings, whatever it is. There's often a there can be a couple things. One is anger. A lot of people they're angry because they're frustrated and they felt victimized and they have a certain level of anger. I mean, and I would say everybody has a certain level of anger, me, you, everybody, um,
Hmm.
that could be triggered. Uh, the issue with, I think, vulnerable populations, let's say at risk teens, is that their anger level could be higher, but it's just below the surface. But what's also below the surface is a desire to connect and a desire to, honestly, I'm just going to say this, just to be loved and to actually express love for other people. That's what they really want. So you can, and I've seen this where we had juvenile offenders. These are kids that are, preteen and teens, and they're facing prison time, but they have an opportunity to go into a program where they could do the program instead of going to prison. And they were singing songs. I mean, I was witnessing a music therapy program for them. They're putting on costumes, they're singing songs, I mean, they were so happy because they never had a childhood like that. They never had that. They never got to do those things. And so they just embraced it and were so happy, to be safe and to be nurtured. And they grabbed the opportunity. Similarly, I mean, if they were put on the street and somebody handed them a gun and said, "Let's go rob that bank or let's steal this car," they probably would say, "Okay, let's do it." But that wasn't the opportunity that was being offered to them. They were being offered a different opportunity, and they still took it. So I don't think you can't say, "Oh, these people are like this," and these people are like that. I think you can give people opportunities and trust them. Building trust is a big part of this. They have to trust you, you have to trust them. But if you have that, if you have trust and respect, and we leave, you can leave judgment aside, leave judgment out of it, and just understand that people want to be good. I think people want to have fun, people want to connect, like I said, then they'll do it often. And it won't be without some challenges sometimes. I've had people in my groups that were, I would say, resistant, and also sometimes they sabotage it, or they'll end up doing things that are contrary, either challenging the leader, they might challenge me, or they'll challenge other people, and there's a lot of behavior that they've learned. But I see a lot of that as a defense mechanism, or a mechanism for them to gain attention or some sort of control over the situation. A lot of that is not, they don't really want to do that, but they do it out of habit. And, they do it because it's easy, I guess. It's easy. It's easier to sometimes like sort of be a bully than it is to be vulnerable, and open up and try to be somebody's friend. But that's the work. That's what we have to do, is give them the opportunity, and then hopefully they'll take it.
And you believe that with time they can change their behavior because of this activity, because of the power of music, or this connection that is created?
So I do believe that, and I and a lot of my colleagues have witnessed this. And my colleagues, when I say my colleagues, I mean as drummers, as musicians, as music educators, as music therapists, as community music facilitators. There's lots of levels. Mainly, some of that has to do with our own skill levels, right? If you're a music educator or a music therapist, then you've probably got a high degree of musical skills and experience. But also, if you're just doing community, like a drum circle, facilitator kind of person, even though you might have very little musical training, uh, there's still opportunities to help people connect with each other and cooperate. So it's not necessarily tracking musical skill, but musical skills help a lot because, and I think we should talk about uh, how do musical skills help facilitate interpersonal skills and community building and all of that, because that we're using music, but music is not the end goal, but music is the vehicle. And
Mm-hmm.
just like if you're going to take a trip, if you're going to take a literal trip across a landscape, you want a good vehicle. You want something that's ready, that's going to be a good quality vehicle. It's going to be capable. It's going to be flexible. It's going to be powerful. It's going to be reliable. And I'll just make this loose analogy. If you're the facilitator and you can't bring that vehicle, if you can't bring quality music, and what I mean is if you're not able, say, for example, to create and maintain a steady rhythm, which some people have trouble with, if you're not able
Mm-hmm.
to create and maintain a melody, if you're teaching a song, for example, or you're not sure what the words are, you don't know, you don't remember, or you're not able to accompany a song or support, if you're not able to offer the structure and support, where's the vehicle, right? It's not
Mm-hmm.
there. So is it important for your participants to be able to do all that? Not really, but it is important for you to be able to do it if you're the facilitator. So
Mm-hmm.
I believe musical skills are not only, they're not only important, they're really critical in a lot of ways that are not obvious. And it's not about performing. It's not about saying, oh, look how great I am. Look how fabulous the music is that I make. It's not that. It's just that, and if you've done community music facilitation or you've led groups with people who are not necessarily musicians, you will find out really quickly, or that not only do you as the facilitator need to be able to produce quality music, rhythms, patterns, tonalities, material, structure, form, all kinds of things. But you need to be able to do it while other people around you are not doing that, and while other people around you, oh yeah, the lights.
Yeah, yeah. It was automatically switch it off.
You're just being dramatic.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, but you need to not only have your own skills, but you need to be able to withstand, the lack of skills. Sometimes, people playing something totally off the beat, for example, and you need to still be able to maintain your own structure, your own sense of, groundedness while that's happening. So it's a lot harder than somebody might think. It's not just about, oh, I can keep a beat. That's not it. It's, can you keep a beat while there's two or three other people not keeping the beat around you? It's not that easy. So we call that fortitude, as in, almost like you think about a fortress. Or a fortress is a structure that protects something, and musical fortitude is the ability to protect the music, while it's, you could say, being
No,
attacked.
uh,
uh,
interesting.
so
This naming this term, music fortitude.
yeah, just your ability to, maintain the melody, like for example, sing in a key and not drift out of the key, or play a rhythm and
Mm.
not slow down, not speed up, or whatever it is. And so I want to follow up though, and feel free to interrupt me if I'm going too long with any of these.
No, yeah, it's fine. Huh?
But the question becomes like, well, why is it important to have quality music? It's important because people understand music. People can hear music. And I know this because I've also done some sessions early on in my music therapy training, for example, where I was trying to play piano, I was trying to play a song, and I really wasn't able to keep up. I wasn't able to play the chords well, and it was not quality. It wasn't
Hmm.
quality. And what happened was the people there in the session, the clients, it was stressing them out because they're used to having the regular therapist who was an organist and a pianist. He was a very good piano player. they were used to that, and now they're getting this kind of poor representation of the music, and they were actually, you know, kind of upset about it. Not at me, but they were just maybe disappointed or confused, and why is this not sounding good? Why is this people get music, they can hear it. Even if they're, you know, just a consumer of music, they're just receiving the music. I think it's really important that it's quality music, because you know you're not going to fool people. You can't just tell people it's better than it is. It's either steady, the beat is either steady or it's not. You know, the melody is either in the key on tune, it's either in tune or it's out of tune. You know, and people can hear that. So I think if we're going to use music as a tool to bring people together and empower them and encourage them and inspire them, and then it really just, it does need to be quality. I feel that way. It's just like if you're a chef and you're going to prepare food for people, your ingredients and your equipment have to be good. You know, it just has to be good starting off, and then you can create whatever you want and it's going to be quality. In terms of, I just want to move towards what is the result of playing music together where the music has some sort of quality element. Now people can hear the beat, they can hear the melody, they can hear the whatever it is, the structure, and they can go into it, they can go there and be part of it. And they don't have to create the music, but they can connect with the music and they can be in the music together. And then there's the sense of community, cooperation, connection, and maybe they can also create something inside that structure that you, as the facilitator, you know, as the presenter, are holding for them, are creating for them, and maintaining that. Right, that's your job, is to create and maintain and hold this space or structure within which your participants are having their own experience and engaging with each other. And then
Just one
musical,
step, sorry to interrupt, but just one step back. When you don't have yet a steady beat, for example, how you fix it? It's like practicing,
yeah.
or for example, you can at a certain moment just get rid of it and do something else just to not stress the participants, because sometimes it can happen,
Sure.
especially because we are one and maybe we have 10 people, and 10 against one, maybe they can create a big mess and we need to control this. And you have
So
any tip for this?
sure. Yeah. So that is a real world scenario. It's a very common, actually. So you're talking about if there's a couple people in the group that are not able to connect with the beat, or yourself, or the leader.
No, the leader is fine, but
Okay.
the participants are out of the beat.
Uh-huh.
They are not, and
Right.
then we can have a problem to get the outcome we would like.
Okay. So sure. So we're really talking about expectations at this point, in
Yeah.
general. I don't expect everybody to be able to play on the beat all the time. I mean, unless they're music majors but even music educators, I hate to say this sometimes, but even professionals they're not always on the beat, and they're not always able to
Yeah.
play to in rhythm. So I do say, yes, first of all, you need to practice. We can all practice, we can all improve. I practice a lot. I've always had to practice my rhythm, and improve my rhythm and play with a metronome and things. But the thing is, when we're working with a group of people who are just there to have a musical experience, but not to become musicians, that's not their goal. So I don't expect them to be on the beat all the time. What I do encourage them to do, so there's two things. First of all, we need to accept that the music is going to be what I call blobby. It's going to be fuzzy. It's going to be blurry. There's going to be it's not going to be precise. There's going to be other things happening. Now, as long as there's enough of a core, of a center of the beat, let's say, if the rhythm, as long as that there's enough there, some of it cannot be on the beat, and it's okay. It's just going to be a little chaotic sounding around the edges. And
Mm-hmm.
I just, it's okay. What I'll do is I maybe try to provide a visual guide. If it's a beat, if it's a rhythm thing, I might try to ask somebody to look at me or somebody else who is on the beat and have them match it. That's a pretty good strategy. Sometimes if people need guidance, if you have the space to do this, you could tap on somebody's shoulder, for example, or go play right next to them and be very close to them. I'll suggest that people rock back and forth or step with their feet, because those things tend to help people, like the motor movements, stepping, moving back and forth. Those tend to help anchor people in the beat. Some people really struggle with keeping a steady rhythm, and they probably always will, unless they really work on it a lot. But I don't expect people to work on that a lot. And that's a skill that, it takes time and takes a lot of effort to develop. So we just put up with it. It's like having a community choir, and there's going to be a couple people who are just singing off the key. And I don't think we're going to fix that in the moment. We can do some things to help, but I think we have to, always you have to accept where people are, and you have to accept the situation. So here's what I would say to somebody who's thinking about facilitating this kind of experience, with people who are doing music in let's say, a casual way, is that you cannot impose your own expectations onto the group. In other words, you don't correct people for doing things that they really can't do. You have to accept that that
Mm-hmm.
they're doing the best they can. And so if you feel like they're doing the best they can, then you need to leave it and not stop. And because I've seen people like try to really correct people or try to train them, like, no, it's
Mm-hmm.
here, this is the beat, like, do this, right? And that can actually be a little traumatic for those people, because they're getting singled out. The spotlight is on them. There's a lot of pressure, and you're basically implying that, no, you're not doing what you're doing is not good enough. What you're doing right now is not right. So I need to fix it. You need to fix it, and you need to fix it now. And that's not
Uh-huh.
in alignment with having fun and having community. And so you've got to be able to pick your battles. Do the best you can as a facilitator, and accept that people are also doing their best. And yes, over time they might get better, and with some guidance it might be helpful, but you have to accept people, how they
It
show
was
up. And
very interesting because you showed some tips. For example, you can do some visual signs. You can move your body. You can get close to them or tap on them. You show something that is like the body movement, the connection you create, that you get close to them. But also, it's important to feel if you're not pushing too hard, right? It's very important to feel it. And then to go to the other part, as you mentioned, the cooperation part, where you're gonna have the, like when they will create something maybe, or how is this cooperation? How does it work?
yeah, exactly. So I'll add one more thing to the, what do you do if it's too chaotic, let's say, if there's too much off the beat. You can back things up and move away from rhythm, for example. You can move away from steadiness into something that's more working with volume, for example, or working with timbre, working with sounds, and take rhythm away from the music for a moment and work with something else, right? Some other elements of music. Maybe you do a story and there's sound effects, right? So it you can move into another area that's musical, but not requiring those kinds of skills, like rhythmic skills, right? So there are things you can do to change the experience. You can even do a song, but you could do it more free floating. It doesn't have to be really strict on the beat. So one of my strategy, and I'll just lay this out while I'm thinking about it, is that you have to look at music also as a constellation of elements and skills. One of those elements and skills is rhythm, but there's many more, right? There's dynamics, there's tone color, there's form, there's pitch, there's harmony, there's melody, there's all kinds of elements in music. So what we can do to facilitate musical expression is we can pick one of those areas at a time, and maybe we just do rhythm a little, but then we don't do lyrics or melody, harmony, form. We're not doing any of that. Or maybe we just go over to the form and we sort of move through the form. Okay, this is going to be A. So let's see, what is that? Let's do something that's A. So we get that part of it, and then maybe we do melody and forget about everything else, or we just do the lyrics, right? So we separate things and we start to slowly add them back together until we've got the whole constellation of music. Because when we do a song, even if it's a song, we've already got lyrics, melody, rhythm, phrasing, form, dynamics, and maybe timbre. We've got a lot of things we're doing.
Yes.
So many things. So break it apart and then you can put it back together. So that's one thing. In terms of cooperation and creativity and community, I feel like if you give people an appropriate level, and what does appropriate mean? Of things to do, you give them enough to do that they're engaged, but not too much that they get stressed out. So we give them some options, like here's a song, here's a beat, here's a rhythm. You can play a shaker, you can sing the song, you could do both. Maybe you could hit this drum or whatever. We give them some things that are options, and then they can choose, from that array of things. Maybe there's 5 different things they can do, or 3 or 4 different things. They can choose one, they can choose a couple, and then you just repeat, give the foundation, let people work with the material, stay out of their way, don't talk to them, don't give them, commands or, advice while they're playing. Let people play. There's another saying that came out of my trainings, which are called developmental community music workshops. And that is let go, let grow, right? Let go, let grow. Don't bother people, just so something I'll do is I just let people play for a while. Just let them play. They never get the chance to play. And, it's easy for us to try to jump in and say, oh, but let me show you how to do this. Or no, you can do that differently. Let me show you how to, let me teach you, and just try to always correct them. But like if a child gets a bicycle, let's say they get a bicycle for their birthday or something, just let them go ride it and try it out. Just let them go figure it out. Like you don't have to be there like controlling everything all the time, and just leave them alone and let them, because people have to teach themselves how to do things. Otherwise, you can't teach anybody how to do something. You can only put somebody in an opportunity. You can only give somebody an opportunity. You can put them in an environment, but they're the ones that need to figure it out and figure out how they're going to work within that environment. How am I going to use these things? What can I do with them? All that stuff. I mean, that's so satisfying, right? When you figure out something for yourself. So that's another big one, is just letting people play, and then they will connect with each other. They will learn from each other. They will connect. And interestingly enough, let me just add one more. You will probably find that if you have a group of, let's say you have a group of teens, and you've introduced a rhythm or a song or something or a pattern, what you'll see is the dynamic that often crops up is one or two of them will start trying to tell the other ones like what they're doing wrong or how to fix it, and they'll start trying to teach each other. And sometimes you actually need to discourage that. A little of that's okay if it's helpful, but sometimes people will use it as an opportunity to, maybe point out what other people are doing wrong, and which can feel like somebody's kind of being punished in that moment, like being scolded, and that's not what we want. We want support. Support is good. Guidance is good. Modeling is good. Doing things, a certain way as an example, but not pointing things out or shaming people, or pointing to people's flaws in public, which none of us like. You know, I don't think any of
Yes,
us like that,
for sure.
right?
But how to
So
deal with these situations, for example?
how would I deal with that?
Yeah.
So sometimes I will, there's a few different things I would try. One is I do try to model the behavior or the way we treat each other. So making a suggestion, well, or even backing up a little, saying, hey, it's okay if you're not getting it right now. Just do your best. We have time, and we'll do this again next week. Or, just do your best right now. And I'll say something like, I know this is probably, it could be a little tricky because you guys are learning this music thing that drummers do, and you're not a drummer. So just do your best, and it's okay. I could step in and simplify it. I could say, you know what, just leave that part out and just do this part for right now. And then when you're comfortable, when you feel ready, put the other thing back in and try that. I could also say, hey, right now, everybody, we're just practicing. So let's just practice, and we're going to do the next 5 minutes, without any talking. So I'll just make a rule for the whole group, including myself. If a couple people are talking a lot, I'm not going to scold them, right? I'm not going to do to them what they're doing to somebody else. But I'll say, okay, well, we're all going to play now, and we're not going to talk for 5 minutes. We're just going to play. So there's different ways of doing it. Now, if somebody is actually continuing to be sort of a bully, then I might have to address it with them directly. And my preferred way of doing that is actually I'll just take somebody aside or have a very private conversation with them, or sometimes I'll just give somebody a quick look, and it actually works pretty well. And I don't like to, I try always to be positive, but we also do have to be a guardian, and we have to sometimes sort of take control and lay the law down, lay the boundaries down. And so even if somebody looks over, and I might just go, like we're playing and they look at me, and I'll just say, I'll just give them a quick, mm-mm, and sometimes that's enough. And I've done that sometimes, and it's not that's it. It's just a quick moment. Like, no, we're not, that's not what we do here, but let me give you something better to do. Let me, let's take it in a different direction. So there's redirection, there's laying some rules down for the whole group, there's modeling, you're doing whatever you hope other people to do. You want to give an example for people to follow, so you do it yourself, right? There's also pointing out the pro-social behaviors, which I will do as well. Like somebody did something and I'll say, hey, you know what? I really like the way that, Eric, thank you for offering, Suzanne, the instrument, or passing it over, or helping her, right? That's so awesome. I really appreciate that, and just
Nice.
acknowledging the positive behavior, so that other people can see not only, oh, if I do something positive, I might get actually a pat on the back, a thumbs up, but also to let them know that I'm seeing that stuff. I see what's going on. I'm paying attention. So, which of course is another skill that we have to add on top of the music making, right? So we're playing music, we're playing quality music, we're doing that while other people are not doing that, and we're paying attention to the social interactions that people are having, right? Or the physical, we're paying attention to what we
Mhm.
consider to be, let's call it the social dynamic in the group.
This facilitator must have this multitask skill, right? To be on top of
Absolutely.
all these things. Yeah. So
Yeah. And
interesting.
that's why your music skills have to be high, because uh, when you're doing those other things, that's when your own music skills, are going to suffer, right? It's harder to play and have a conversation at the same time, right? And that's also something that in my workshops, when I train people, I have them do that, because I say, okay, it's fine if you can play a rhythm on a drum. Let's say you can do that, okay? But now I want you to do that and have a conversation with your neighbor at the same time.
Nice.
Yeah.
Must be very fun for them to do.
It's fun, and it shows us all. And when we try these different things, it shows us where our growth needs are. Right. It shows us where we need to improve our own skills. And it's never ending. I mean, I never feel like I have enough skill, and I still forget words to songs or this and that. I still forget things here and there, but I know overall I have pretty strong abilities musically. And like anything, I mean, working with a group, serving a group through music to meet a non-musical goal, like let's say your goal is kind of to have a feeling of cohesiveness and appreciation and just elevate people's mood, right? That's a great goal. That also is like learning a skill, right? That also takes practice. And I guess fortunately or unfortunately, the only way you can practice that is by doing it. And you can't really fake it. I mean, you can have, like in college when I was going through my music therapy and music education training, we would pretend that we had a group of whoever. We were role playing, right? You can do a little bit through role play, but that's not the same. I mean, it's not anywhere near the same. So you do the best you can. And what I would recommend too to people who are starting off with any kind of service to a population that you could classify as vulnerable, I would just say, be cautious and be respectful. And if you feel like you're getting in over your head, then get somebody else to help you, ask for help, because even though our intentions are good, sometimes we can actually end up causing harm if we're not capable and skilled and sensitive, and we don't know what we don't know. And so sometimes people can throw themselves into a situation like, oh, I'm going to work, with these at-risk teens, or I'm going to work with cancer survivors, or I'm going to work with prisoners or ex-prisoners, or whoever it is. And there's a lot to know about these things, and there's a lot of considerations that you need to learn and have. And so you don't want to do harm, even if your intentions are good. So I would just say start off, with something that's maybe where the chance of you accidentally doing some harm is lower, and start off with something that's more casual, and not with a real sensitive population, because there's a lot of things going on. For example, I worked in rehab a little bit, a number of years ago, and you always do your best. I do my best, but looking back, I think, well, I could have done a lot of things better, because I didn't know at the time. And these are people that are struggling, in their life, and it's serious and it's important, and want to be respectful of people and their own process. And things come up. I mean, there's like anger, and people may confront you as a facilitator. You might get some pushback. You might get actual anger. I mean, people sometimes might get up and leave, or they might get mad and have a tantrum in the middle of the. There's a lot of things that could happen. So, but I find that just empathy, compassion, giving people space, those are all important things.
So very nice, cool. Thanks for sharing all this experience you have, because I really imagine that with time we develop these senses. We become more sensitive for these things, and I imagine in the very beginning we can maybe struggle a lot to identify all these things we should do. In a certain moment, is like an improvisation, maybe to react in the best way with these situations. And very nice. And jumping a little bit to the career itself, what do you think is important to develop? Of course, you need to have the musical knowledge, all those things we talked about, but who you think is important to partner with, or maybe how to reach the groups we want to work. How can we make it sustainable?
Hmm.
How do you think it could be, or how it was in the beginning, and how do you see it now?
So yeah, I think, well, some of the things you just mentioned, like partnering, is important. I think as a musician, I mean, you can come into, let's say, are we talking about helping professions right now? Or are we talking about just facilitating? So let's what's the popular, or what's the general goal or population? Are we talking about sensitive populations? Or are we talking about recreational or team building for corporations, or what? Because those are all pretty different. So
Yeah, if we keep in this, for example, youngsters at risk target group, but
okay,
now having the career as
yeah,
focus on our talking.
sure. So what I would recommend, and this is something that some of my colleagues who are drummers do, and I think it's great, is that you just partner. And if you come in to do music, music program, make sure that you're doing it with a counselor, or a social worker or staff member, somebody else who is there, who knows how to handle issues that come up, because that's not your job
Hmm.
unless you are also a counselor and a musician. There's some people that are both. But and I think a music therapist is a good person who could probably handle both things, to deal with behavior issues, and of course provide the music part. But at first, I would recommend just you have to partner. And if you're going to a facility, if I was going in somewhere where I'm unfamiliar with the clients, and they usually do have counselors around and other people, I would also ask that those people are there and they don't just leave and consider it a break because I'm there doing something with the teens or with the clients. That can also happen sometimes, where staff will kind of check out and go do something else because they think, oh well, they're busy. But that's
Hmm.
yeah, but that's not okay, really. So because I'm not there, I don't know what they know. I don't know the history. I don't know the people that well. So, and it's not my job to handle those kind of behavior issues if they come up. So I think partnering is good, whether it's with the staff that's on site, or you just partner with somebody and you both go as a team, and you have a program,
Hmm.
so that there's somebody who gets the counseling part or the debriefing part, whatever part that is. I have picked up things over my career, but I'm not a counselor. I'm not a therapist. I mean, music therapist, but I'm not a talk therapist. I'm not a psychotherapist, and I don't try to do that. So another thing is to know where your scope of practice begins and ends, and we just call that scope of practice. And mine is in music and community music and creating experiences and doing what I do, but it's not in psychotherapy, it's not in group discussion, it's not in that. So I will, if things seem to be going in a direction where it seems like that's needed, then I will just recommend that, to the group or to the counselors, and I will say, okay, well, you guys follow up, or let's continue this with this other person. I'm not going to do that, but it would be great if you guys did that, if that happened. And so maybe
Hmm.
you can facilitate that happening. I also just be honest with what your own skills are. I if I don't know something, I just tell people I don't know that. I'm sorry, I can help. Maybe I can help you find it, but I don't know. Just admit that you like we know things, we know some things, we don't know other things. Don't try to pretend that you that you know stuff. um, but on the business side, yeah, this is where we get into some ethical issues. Also, around marketing. Sometimes people will market their services, I guess, as if they're going to do certain things for certain groups, or there's a lot of science or pseudoscience out there. I see a lot of people that quote different studies about different things, or whether it's like sound vibrations, or there's studies
No.
on drumming. There's some studies on drumming. A lot of them are just inconclusive, and we would need a lot more research in that area to come up with really anything that would be of value that we could claim, that we could say for any certainty. So I encourage people to stay away from that. As you know, it's not necessary to try to market yourself by quoting a lot of other research or studies. I think focusing on the positives, creativity, community, having fun, elevating mood, those are things that I think universally we can all agree that music does.
Mhm.
So just don't try to overmarket it as like a magic pill. Find a partner. If you're not sure about the direction of a session, like where a session might be going, just stick with the music and don't try to get into being a counselor or being anything else than what you are. Like, just, I would say, be yourself and trust the music. The music has its own capabilities, right? That
Mhm.
like, for me, even, like, the music can do things that I can't do. But if I create the music, then it's there, right? Then we have it in the room with us. And I feel like that's my job. It's not my job to address everybody's particular needs in the moment, but maybe I can help them by providing quality music, so they can work things out and they can just go into the music. If the music's
Mhm.
not there, they can't use it either, right? And
Yes,
our job
true.
is to create it for them. I'm not sure if I'm completely answering your question, because you were talking more about, like,
No,
I
but
guess, how do you
it was
present yourself?
interesting actually. Yeah, no, it was very very nice to hear that. And but for example, we can feel that they have some benefits out of it. We can really see and empirically. But did you develop a way to measure it somehow? uh, or it's just the feeling, because we all know that it's good when the
Yeah.
session is nice, we can feel it, but something that not to use as a bad marketing, but just for us to have something tangible that okay, we really had these outcomes, you know.
I think, yeah, I would say it's difficult to measure. Well, and in fact, I think it's difficult to measure just about anything. Like, even when I go to the doctor, all right, I go to the medical doctor, they don't know. I mean, they're just giving me some advice, or I go to physical therapy. They're just trying
uh,
stuff out, and we don't really know. So I think anecdotal evidence is strong, and it's okay. You can do a lot with actually just a subjective kind of experiential reporting. I think showing that you're getting exercise today, by the way, you're just like, you
yeah.
should just stay in there and just like you do exercise. Uh, um, I mean, in terms of my career and the jobs that I've gotten, or maybe the work that I didn't get or that I didn't keep, it's really just based on people's observation, like the client's experience and the staff observation, and the people that I will work with or work for. They see it. They either. I mean, I think it speaks for itself. I think that there is, for example, I have a weekly music therapy group at a facility for people with traumatic brain injuries, and I've been going there a long time, and they love it, and the staff love it, and some of the people, it's like their favorite time all week. They just have 1 hour a week, but they look forward to it. And if I just keep coming back because they keep inviting me back. And I think if you want to market yourself, I would, what we've done in the past is just offer like one session, say we could come in and show you. I think showing people what it is a lot better than talking about it, right? It's hard to talk about music anyway.
Mhm,
Uh,
it's true.
yeah, I think just do it, give people an idea, show an example, give people like a freebie, as we say, and then let them decide from there.
Cool.
I don't think we have to overthink it or overmarket it. Again, I think people understand music. The one thing that I would say, that if we're talking to people about doing a music-based program for a non-music based outcome, like, whatever that outcome is just to let them know that the music, what we're doing here, is music based, but this is not a class, and they are not performers, and we're not studying music. This is not a music lesson, even though they might call it a music lesson. I still have people calling, like staff, they'll say, "Oh, it's time for music class." And I'm like, "This is not a class." uh but whatever, that's okay. So we could just call it an experience, a music session, a music experience. But why are we doing this? We're doing it for mood, we're doing it for connection, we're doing it for community, we're doing it for motivation, we're doing it for opportunities for creativity. And what is creativity, really? Creativity is a way for us to experience our own spirit, ourselves, right? Because like what I create is a reflection of who I am, right? And what you create is a reflection of who you are. So if I encourage you to create in the same space where I am, then what we're actually doing is I get to know you better, right? I can see who you are, and then if I connect with what you're creating, now I'm literally connecting with part of you. I'm putting part of myself out there. This is my rhythm. Here I go. Oh, I hear Wagner did this, and now I'm going to do this in response. And now the music, is like an extension of ourselves, right? And it's like we're just doing this
Mm-hmm.
in music. So, and that's a real thing. Music is vibrations in the air. It's a physical thing, it is, even though we can't see it. It's an actual physical thing. It exists all around us in the space. And when we connect with that, let's say, extension of ourselves, when we extend all those things and we connect them, we're literally forming a bond there and connections. And those are meaningful. So we all know that. I mean, we all know it, but we can reinforce that idea. And we know that it's not depending on language or culture, right? It's super language and culture. It's above them. It's
Uh-huh.
beyond them. And so that makes it really useful too, right? For mixed groups culturally, or age or gender or whatever, music transcends all of that. And so that's another really powerful aspect to it, because what are most other you could do sports, right? You could do some sport, but you probably still need to talk a little bit. You can do other forms of art making, and that's fine, like visual arts, painting and things. That's okay, but it's hard to do community painting, right?
Yeah.
uh, so music is a unique medium that everybody can participate in at the same time. It's going to be unique, different. And then what is left over is, you don't have to store a gigantic painting somewhere or a big sculpture or anything. You don't have to do any of that. You have the feeling, which is lasting, I think. And that's the idea, is that we create opportunities that help connect people, elevate people, motivate people, and that those feeling qualities will extend, into people's daily lives, and hopefully for days afterwards. So
Yeah.
that's the value.
Amazing, amazing. Well, I think we could talk forever for me. But yeah, it's been amazing to hear you say all those things. For me, was a lot of new information, new inputs, very valuable. That I'm looking for the next session I will do with people to try to apply some of those things, and not only for me. I'm sure that all those things you said is very valuable for music educators, musicians, practitioners, people in this field. And yeah, I'm very happy with this. I think if there's something that you would like to add, or how how is for you? What do you think? Because for me, I could stay, as I said, forever here, but I know that
We got,
you,
yeah. Well, you've got
uh,
things to do there, and you're in Amsterdam, you said?
I'm in Amsterdam, yes, and I think we are like 9 hours
Yeah,
different, right? Here is 8. Uh,
right. And
and
here it's like 11. Yeah, it's 11. So, well, I mean, enjoy Amsterdam while you're there. And yeah, I think it's a really exciting world, the world of music making, but actually the world of music facilitation. Um, that's, to be honest, where I get the most satisfaction and excitement. I mean, I love playing gigs with good musicians. Of course, I love doing touring and shows, and that's all fine. But there's something about being with people in music, in that music experience, just the sense of community and creativity and fun, having fun. So I would just leave people with the idea that just if you focus on seeing the fun spirit in other people and saying yes to that, even if it's not matching your plan, right? We all have a plan. And I think that's the biggest point where we can go wrong, is that we want to stick to our plan. And so when people start doing other things that are not in our plan, we say, no, no, no.
um,
That's the opposite of what we should do. Yeah, we always say, "Oh, wow, what are you doing? What are you doing? Let's incorporate that. Let's get that. Let's get that." And then you end up with something amazing, different, fun and weird. So, so be open to weirdness, be open to fun, be open to just, it's so funny. And I'll just give you one more. Do I have it? I don't think I have it right here, but I usually have like those rubber chickens, the screaming rubber chicken.
uh,
And so that'll be your last thought of this, but like, you just have something that's like weird and funny, and you just hand it out, and people will use it in really funny ways, and also just to have a fun sound like that. Sometimes that's all you need, just to break the ice or enjoy yourself. And that's the beauty of music. I mean, we can bring all that stuff into a session. So it can be serious, it can be reverent, it can be sacred, and at the other end of the spectrum, it can be like whimsical and funny and crazy and wild, and it can be everything in between. So thanks for reaching out, Wagner. I appreciate the chance to just kind of go on and on about this topic. I know we could go on forever, but we'll continue at some point. And I just encourage anybody to reach out to me if you're watching this and you're not like, you're seeing, okay, who is this guy, Kalani? Who, I don't know that guy. You can go to World Drum Club YouTube channel. That's my main channel, and I also have Kalani Music channel. And as you know, I post a lot of videos up there on a range of topics. So I'm
and
just,
what's
if I can
the
be,
name of your book that you mentioned in the beginning?
so Together in Rhythm
Together.
is the book that I wrote for, basically it's group drumming, but it's really group music facilitation. And that's where I have a lot of information and activities and ideas and things people can try. Also, there's a newer book that I recommend that people get, because I wrote this in my music therapy work. I have a picture here. I have an example. This is called The Way of Music. This book is like a guide to developing the skills for music improvisation and music improvisation based facilitation. But it walks you through this from the very beginnings of music, which I recommend start with listening and identifying sounds and things, and then working with sounds and gradually building skills until you have a solid foundation, and then starting to look at intermusical skills, like how does my music relate to your music, and then how can I change it, how can I change my music so that it better fits, or it's guiding, or it's whatever. It's a very fascinating journey when we look at how to use music purposefully, but not for a performance perspective, but for an interpersonal perspective. And that's what that book is about. So that's called The
Wow.
Way of Music, creating sound connections in music therapy. And people can get that on Amazon. That would be a good one. but but you got to do the work. It's not just I'm going to read this and then I'm going to go off and do something. No,
Yeah.
that's a workbook. And I would expect somebody could take, 6 months or a year and just kind of go through it and work through it. But then come out the other side with a whole different perspective and hopefully a reinforced skill set. But yeah, people can reach out to me. KalaniMusic.com is my website, but World Drum Club is the main channel on YouTube. You can check it out and, reach out anytime.
Yeah, for sure. Amazing. Really would like to thank you for all this information, for your time, and it was a big pleasure to have this conversation with you. And we have plans to do something with other people, and I'm gonna talk to you later about it. It will be very nice here, and yeah, looking forward for next time and to watch what we talked here later, and it was amazing. Thank
All
you
right.
very much.
My pleasure. Thank you.